Hello, thank you for taking the quiz. The quiz is essentially a self-evaluation tool to help people recognize whether they're on the right track when it comes to securing their financial future. I have found over the many years that I have been investing and that I have been an entrepreneur that majority of people in the world do not understand money and wealth. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to take you through so many insights on money and wealth that the majority of people don't understand. Now, this may seem like an exaggerated claim, but it's actually not. And I want you to be the judge of this as you go through this presentation. So thank you for taking the quiz, and hopefully you starting to realize that there may be gaps in your financial situation. The bad news is that most people don't know that they've got gaps when it comes to securing their financial future. The good news is it's easily learnable. So I will tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing this in a few minutes. But the main thing here that you need to ask yourself is, are you seriously committed to your financial future, or are you just seeking shortcuts that will end up costing you a lot of time and money? And I'm going to take you through how many people actually become wealthy. And I know this because I've come from a normal middle-class background, born in India. People know me as an Indian-born entrepreneur or investor or thought leader. I live in Australia. And some people think that if you live in the Western world, that you automatically become richer. But the reality is, most people across the entire world, including developed countries, are struggling financially, and especially so in India. And it's not because the opportunities are not there. I'm going to prove to you how many opportunities are there. It's because people are not trained financially. And you don't need to have a finance degree. In fact, most finance degree people are broke. I'm going to show you how you need to understand the fundamentals of money and wealth if you are really committed to becoming financially successful. Now, why you should listen to me when it comes to wealth? Well, before we go into that, let me just define the word wealth. Wealth is not necessarily having sports cars and prestige cars or luxury. Wealth is your ability to be able to fund your entire lifestyle without needing to work. So most people can only fund their lifestyle. Most people don't even have a lifestyle, so they're living in survival. But even those that have a lifestyle, the only way they can continue to pay for that lifestyle is by working. So you're only financially free, you're only wealthy when you don't need to work. You can work because it's a choice, because you may want to build something, or because you're bored, or because you have a passion for what you're doing, but you're no longer working for survival. You're working either to build your empire, or you're working because you have a passion or you want to impact others. And when you get to that point where you're no longer working for money, that's when you're wealthy. And so why should you listen to me about wealth? Well, I've spent 22 years in financial services, but unlike a lot of finance professionals in the past, I've actually got diversified work experience across commercial banking, private banking, accounting, wealth management, investment advisory, and financial planning. So this is something rare because I have a 360-degree understanding of money from all perspectives. Most finance professionals generally only specialize in one area, so they have a biased or very limited view on money and wealth. I've also worked for some of the largest finance companies in the world. I've actually worked for the largest investment company in the world. I've been featured across a range of credible financial media. My editorials and opinions have been published in the past because I have been able to provide insights, exceptional insights and unique insights about money and wealth. I was also, when I was a practicing wealth management professional, I was awarded in the top 5 wealth management experts in Melbourne, Australia. I was also awarded by the top licensee in Australia. And I've also written books on money and wealth. But the main reason is I've also been investing now for over 20 years. And sometimes you'll meet people who are doing really well financially and they've made money or they've made wealth. But I don't think that necessarily qualifies them to be good teachers or good advisors, because the ultimate test is not that you just build wealth, but you've actually been able to hold on to that wealth for 15, 20 years and continue to grow that wealth. Sometimes people get lucky. Sometimes people speculate and they become wealthy for a short period of time, and they're not necessarily the right people to learn from. I have started from nothing, literally from zero. Don't have family that was wealthy. I started from zero, and not only have I been able to build wealth in a methodical, sustainable way without any complexity, but I've actually been able to hold on to it and continue to grow it over the last 20 years. So I want to help you understand something. This presentation is mainly for professionals that are in India who are financially motivated, and you want to secure your financial future, and you want to do it the right way. And when I was looking at the Indian stock market index, which is the Sensex, I found something really interesting. In 1980, which was when I was only 3 years old, the Indian Sensex was only at 129 points. 10 years later, it was 781 points. 2000, it was 5,000 points. In 2010, it was 17,000 points. In 2021, it was almost 59,000 points. And as recently as yesterday, last time I checked, it's sitting at over 81,000 points. Now, what this tells us is that the stock market has continued to create wealth. It's continued. It's not just doubled or tripled or quadrupled. As you can see, people who were invested right from the beginning would have done incredibly well. In fact, every 10 years, the market is doing incredibly well. However, in the same market, the majority of people in India are not becoming rich. Per capita GDP in India is one of the lowest. It's under $2,000. And even when you look at net worth statistics, there are only about 30,000 known individuals and entities that have over 100 crores. Now, even if you said, Ron, there's a lot of black money, you don't know about that. Okay, double it, triple it, quadruple it. The reality is India is not even producing 1% of the world's millionaires. Certainly, becoming a billionaire, yes, India has probably more billionaires per capita than millionaires, but that's only because when you're a billionaire, you're generally a politician, or you're a sports person, or you're an entertainer, or you're an industrialist. You have such a big market. So naturally, becoming a billionaire is more plausible in a country like that. If you're exceptionally talented, you're in politics, you're an industrialist, you're an entertainer, you're a cricketer, because you've got such a big market, over 1 billion people. But that's not a good test of the financial health of the country, because the countries that are really rich are the ones where there are more millionaires than billionaires. And this is the paradox. Even though being a billionaire is a lot more money, the reality is that if you really look at India, all the money is being concentrated at the top. Very little money is actually flowing to the middle class and people at the bottom. So that just means that if you were to remove the 1% of rich Indians, then the whole situation looks really, really bad. And so the question isn't that only if the people at the top are becoming rich, but why the people in the middle and the bottom are not becoming rich. And this has to do with financial literacy. And it doesn't matter how much the Indian economy grows. If people's wealth is not growing, then that's not a good thing. And so I'm going to take you through why that's happening. Now, some people think, if they just got lucky, if they win a lottery or they get an inheritance, that their problems will be solved. But the reality is that if you just get a lot of money through luck, through gambling, through speculation, through inheritance, the fact is that if you're not skilled, you're not going to be able to keep that money, and you're not going to be able to grow that money. And the research is also very clear. When children who are born to rich parents, and when parents leave them money, most of the wealth is gone by the time the wealth gets to the third generation. Because when you just leave money to people, but they don't have the skills to preserve their wealth and grow their wealth, they automatically diminish that wealth. And it's the same thing for you. If you, by luck, end up with a lot of money, it's only a matter of time you're going to lose it, because you may not need skills to make a lot of money, but you still need skills to keep the money and grow the money, something that most people don't understand. As statistics are very clear that even lottery winners, 85% of those lottery winners end up going back to the same financial position, and sometimes even go bankrupt within the first 5 years of winning a lottery. So it's not about wishing for having more money. What you really have to want is to have the financial capability, the skills. And sometimes people make a lot of money because they're very good at their jobs, and they're top performers, whether it's in business or it's in sports. It doesn't matter. We have an example of Mike Tyson, who made a lot of money, but then could not keep it all. So his current net worth is around 10 million, but compared to what he actually holds, He made a lot of money, but because he did not understand wealth creation, he did not understand how to protect and preserve his wealth, very fast that wealth actually went away. And it goes through excessive taxes, it goes through fees, it goes through wrong planning, the wrong strategies, the wrong speculation, the wrong investments. There are a million ways in which you can lose money, but there are only very few ways in which you can continue to make money. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. Financial freedom, only 1% of people in the world achieve financial freedom. And this is not a lie. You can go into the Deloitte's reports and you can see when you start to break it down country to country and you look at the number of people who are millionaires, and the official definition of a millionaire is $1 million in net worth, and that's about 7 crores. And generally, it should exclude the house that you're living in. And the reason is very simple. The house is it's not a non-income producing asset. It doesn't produce any income. We live in it. It's an emotional purchase. So even if the house goes up in value, if it doesn't put money in your pocket, then it's not considered an asset from a investment net worth perspective. So the reality is that only 1% of people become financially free, and majority of people don't even get their retirement. So even if you can't become rich when you're young, by the time you retire, it's a good idea to be rich. And some people say, I don't want to be rich. And that's because they sometimes misunderstand what becoming rich is. They think becoming rich is having status and sports cars and mansions. It's not. Rich is having enough money to last you an entire lifetime and being able to contribute to people and causes that you care about. And most people will not get there. So real definition of financial freedom is the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, wherever you want, as much as you want. Now, nobody can do all of this all the time, but people who have a lot of money and wealth, they have more control over their life. They have more sovereignty. They're able to make more choices. People who have less money, generally, they can't choose where they're going to live. They can't choose where they're going to work. They can't choose who they're going to work with. They can't choose which restaurants they want to eat at. So the choices are taken away. The wealthier you are, the more choices you have. The less wealthy you are, the less choices you have. So it's not about prestige. It's not about status. It's not about showing off. What it's really about is making sure that you have more choices. Money just buys you more choices. Choice of healthcare, choice of where you want to live, choice of the type of people you want to work with, what you want to work on, choice of what you want to do with your time. You get so many choices back when you have financial freedom. And that's really the main reason. Now, the interesting thing is most people actually have a psychological negative association with money and wealth. And this has been well researched. Most people do not like rich people, and most people think that having wealth will make you bad. This is because of cultural conditioning. This is because of societal conditioning. People think that if I become wealthy, I'm a bad person. Poor people are good people. Rich people are bad people. The reality is there are good and bad people who are rich. There are good and bad people who are poor. And being good or bad has more to do with character and less to do with money. But sometimes people think, if I see a rich person behaving badly, it's because of the money. They don't realize it's got nothing to do with money. It's got to do with character. That person never had good character to start with. So the fact is, if you really consider, if you've ever watched a movie, you will find that in majority of the movies, whether it's Bollywood movies or it's Hollywood movies, you will find that the majority of times, the bad guy is the rich guy. The villain is the rich guy, and the good guy is the poor guy, or financially irresponsible, or somebody who doesn't care about money and wealth. So when you're young and you're watching these movies again and again, or you're watching TV and you constantly see that the good characters are always broke and the bad characters are rich, in your mind, you start to create unconscious and negative connections with money and wealth. And you start to say, money and wealth is bad. I don't want to be like the bad guy. So, I may not be rich, but at least I'm a good person. I may not be rich, but at least I'm honest. I may not be rich, but at least I'm happy. And you start to make these very false connections in your mind that being happy and, being honest is only possible if you don't have wealth. And that is simply not true. This is a lie that people tell themselves to justify their financial failures and their lack of financial literacy. In fact, there's actually been research on it. Even Forbes did an article on this, and they found that America's favorite villain has always been a rich guy. Now, this is, as you know, if you're in India and you watch Bollywood movies, it's the same thing. Most of the time, you will find that the rich guy is a villain. Why is that? because that's what they do, because society is so mentally programmed to see wealth as bad that even when they make movies, they know that that's what's going to appeal to people, right? So that's what they keep showing you. And you continue to think without even, most people don't even realize they're being programmed mentally, psychologically, emotionally to see wealth as a bad thing. And the problem is this: when psychologically you think that wealth is bad, you are going to behave in such a way where you are not even going to focus on wealth creation. And even if you end up making money and wealth, you will find ways to get rid of it so that you can remain consistent with your beliefs. This has been studied through neuroscience. In fact, there are two fields that are completely dedicated to understanding the psychological link between how people think and the wealth that they accumulate. There is behavioral finance and neuroeconomics. So the fact is, how we think also has a real impact on how much wealth we create. So some of you might be thinking, if I get a finance degree, if I go and buy some stocks, I'm going to become rich. Well, I'm here to tell you, no. If you're psychologically, you are hardwired to fail financially, no matter what you do strategically, no matter what you do from a planning point of view, you will self-sabotage and you will make mistakes. You will find the wrong partners, the wrong investments. You're going to succumb to fear or greed in the market, and you will sabotage your own wealth. And we hear it all the time. You'll see examples of people who were doing very well, and then all of a sudden they made a bad mistake and they lost their wealth. How many times have you heard a favorite uncle or a friend or friend's dad or mother saying, we had so much and then this happened and we lost it all. And so they always blame an event or a circumstance why they lost it, not realizing it was the decisions that they were making and the behaviors that they were engaging in, which caused them to make bad decisions. And this happened because at the subconscious level, they're not even aware of it, at the subconscious level, they believe that wealth was bad. And so this can really make you act in unconscious ways, which will get you to lose money and wealth. Now, when it comes to wealth, a lot of people approach me and they say, Ron, what's the best investment for me? And I said, that's the wrong question. You never start with, where should I invest? Should I buy this company or this stock or this property? This is the wrong way to start. If you're asking, how much money should I put in crypto, or should I buy this stock, or should I buy this property? You are starting on the wrong foot immediately. The reason is there is a method through which you become wealthy. So it's like a tree. The most important part of the tree are the roots. And then the roots, then there comes the trunk, then the branches, and then the leaves. And there is a methodical way in which you want to approach your planning for your wealth. And you must always start with the roots. And here are some of the important questions at the root level. What is financial wealth? Do you even know what financial wealth is? If you think financial wealth is driving a BMW, you're already wrong. You're starting on the wrong foot. If you think financial wealth is having a better apartment or having more status or more income than your neighbors, you're already wrong. This is not financial wealth. Financial wealth, I've already described what it is. It's your ability to be able to live the life and lifestyle that you want without needing to work. Most people don't even know that. What are the ways to create wealth? We're going to cover that. And some people think that the way to become wealthy is to cheat people, to lie to people, to make speculative investments, to go and buy crypto, or to do what everybody else on Facebook is doing. This is the wrong way. You have to ask that question. Third question you want to ask yourself is, why do you want to create wealth? See, if you don't have a meaningful and relevant reason for creating wealth, you will psychologically make mistakes. When we have a clear reason to do something, we stick with it. We are committed. When we don't have a clear reason, and for most people, I want to become a billionaire, I want to become a trillionaire, and you ask them why, they don't even know how much $1 billion is. So when you start thinking like that, or when you start thinking, I just want to become rich, and you don't even know why, you're not going to become rich. Why do you want to become wealth? Have you documented the exact reason? Perhaps you want to buy a house. Perhaps you want to live in a particular area. Maybe you want to build a business, or you want to build a charity. Maybe you want to contribute to your parents or people, disadvantaged people. But you must be very specific, and you must know how much money you need for that. It's only then your brain starts working and it actively starts to seek opportunities, because now you have made that goal meaningful and relevant. What will you do with the money when you have it? You must know this. If you don't know it, you're not going to have the discipline and the commitment to last the distance. Then we go into the trunk. How much wealth do I actually need? How much do you actually need? If you don't even know what a billion is, it's not going to happen because it's not meaningful. It is not relevant. How much do you need? Do you need 5 crores? Do you need 10 crores? Do you need 30 crores? Do you need 100 crores? You need to be able to articulate what that net worth is going to give you, how much income you need in the future when you stop working. What has stopped you from creating wealth so far? This is a really important question. You must reflect on, are you behaving in such a way? Maybe you seek shortcuts. Maybe you don't like to think. Maybe you have gambling tendencies. Maybe you have hoarding tendencies, which is like you can't even invest money. You're so scared. What has prevented you from creating wealth? Maybe you have really negative beliefs about wealth creation. Have you ever questioned that? Do you have the mental discipline and ambition to create wealth? A lot of people don't have it. They just want money fast, but they don't actually have the discipline and the ambition. And what's your philosophy? What do you believe in? Do you believe in making money fast? I have a philosophy. My philosophy is boring money, exciting life. I don't take risks with my money. I want to create wealth in the least risky possible way, but I want to make sure that my wealth is growing exponentially. So I'm going to share my philosophy and how that works. And also, it's not just my philosophy. It actually happens to be the most proven philosophy in the world, and it's based on the most timeless fundamentals and principles. So you're in luck because I'm going to share that with you today. And I only want to share with you not just what's worked for me, but has worked for majority of millionaires in the world. Then you have to ask yourself, how will I create wealth? What are the ways that I can create wealth? And we're going to cover that. You also need to manage risk. You can't just go and put your money into something and not look at the risk side of things, because I don't like taking excessive risk. And I'm going to show you why that's important. How should I start? That depends. Are you going to start with stocks? Are you going to start with mutual funds? Are you going to start with real estate? Are you going to borrow money? What are you going to, how much amount are you going to put? All of that sort of stuff. What should I do first? Are you going to buy life insurance? What are you going to do first? Do you even know where you should start? What concerns me these days is so many people have no knowledge, no experience. They have no money in traditional assets, and they go and put all their money in crypto. I can't tell you how disappointed these people are going to be. And you wait and watch. Some of them are bragging on Facebook on the returns that they're getting, but just wait. See what happens to a lot of these people. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to take my word. But you just watch and see what happens in the next 10 years. What return should I aim for? I meet people who come to me and say they've got returns of, 30%, 40%, 50%. And I tell them, well, Warren Buffett is the richest investor in the world. And he himself claims that he only gets a return of, 15 to 22%. So your returns are higher than Warren Buffett, but Warren Buffett has a net worth of over 100 billion. So how come you don't have that net worth? And this is because people think that if I have a good return, I'll just become rich. It doesn't work like that. And I'm going to show you why. And only once you've answered the root questions and you've answered the trunk questions and you've answered the branch questions, you go into the leaf questions. Where should I invest? Should I buy stocks, real estate, or something else? How much should I invest? How often should I invest? People don't ask themselves. Now, the reality is most people are heading towards financial disaster. And this is not just me saying it. You'll see that over the next 5-10 years, you can start making observations. And this is exactly what's going to happen. First financial shock that people are unprepared for is inflation. The value of money keeps going less and less because the governments keep producing more money. Everything becomes more expensive. If you look back last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, everything was cheaper. Well, guess what? Over the next 10, 20, 30 years, everything will become a lot more expensive. Question is, will your money keep up with it? Will your income keep up with it? Will your investments keep up with inflation? And I'll show you how much inflation is currently across the world. And the question is your money growing faster than inflation? If it's not, you're actually becoming poorer. You may not see it now, but you will feel it in the future. A long retirement. Well, once upon a time, people used to live 10 years in retirement. Now they're living 30, 35 years in retirement because of medical advances. My question is, once you retire, the job income is not coming in. So how will you support yourself and your family and pay for your house expenses and your medical expenses for 30, 35, 40 years if you don't already have financial wealth? Will you ask your parents for money? Will you ask your children for money? Will you ask the government for money? Is that your plan? The other financial shock that people are not prepared for is aging parents. Our parents are also going to live a long time. Most of them are not planned, so they're going to run out of money. Who's going to support them in retirement? Will you? Well, if you have not made provisions for your own future, how will you be able to support them? The other shock that people are not prepared for is that their children, as they get older, a lot of the children will not move out of the home because of housing costs. If you live in a major capital city of India, you will know that, buying an apartment or renting an apartment is expensive. So children will a lot of the times live with their parents, and they may not have enough income, which means that if you're the parent, you have to look after your parents and you have to look after your children at the same time, because your parents are going to be alive and your children may be dependent. So how are you going to be able to look after them, especially that because the economy is changing? You can't just think that your kids are always going to be able to get into the workforce and make a lot of money. Things are changing very fast because of artificial intelligence. Another financial shock that most people have no plan for is if they lose their job. What will happen if you lose your job? If you don't already have investments, you don't have business skills, what are you going to do? If you don't have stock options, if you don't already have equity, profit share in companies, what are you going to do? Most people will have to sell everything that they've bought if they lose their job. And they're saying now that 40% of white-collar workers will lose their job over the next 5 years. What will happen if you get sick, injured, or disabled? If you're not properly insured, what will happen then? Again, you will have to sell all your investments, your house, your car, if you don't have a plan. What will happen if you have a divorce or a marital breakdown? In India, the rate of divorce will increase because in any country where once women become financially independent, there is generally a divorce rate goes up, and I expect this to happen in India as well. So what will happen is both for the husband and the wife, they will have less money because they're splitting their assets. How are they going to then fund their own retirement? What happens if the main income earner in your family, it could be you or it could be your spouse, what if they die? What will happen then? Can you pay off all the debt and fund your retirement and pay for your kids' education? And what will you do when financial crashes happen, which they will? Financial crashes are very common. A financial crash can happen once every 3 or 4 years. If you don't know, if you're not skilled and you don't understand how financial crashes work, even if you invest, you will lose a lot of your money and then you will panic. And so you need to understand. The problem is that our education system teaches us academics. It doesn't teach us money and business. And really think about this. Do you think our education system is creating wealthy, empowered, and independent thinkers and leaders? Look around you. How many people are empowered? How many people are rich? How many people are independent? Or do you think that the job of the education system is to create laborers, blue-collar laborers and white-collar laborers for governments, for factories, for corporations? Think about it really carefully. And I encourage you all to do your own research on why the education system exists. If you think that the education system is designed to make you rich, well, the reality is they don't teach you anything about investing or risk management. Nothing in school is taught about that sort of stuff. They don't teach you how to be a capitalist. They don't teach you how to create profit. They don't teach you how to manage risk because they're not interested in you becoming wealthy. They're interested in you becoming laborers. Even teachers don't know that. Principals don't know that. They themselves are a byproduct of this system. And the reality is when somebody like me who actually has created wealth from nothing and has been able to sustain and grow that wealth over the last 20 years, when I come and teach people, so many people will say, oh, he's a scammer, because people don't understand why somebody would sell their education. Well, I'm a capitalist, so I have knowledge which can help you, and I'm selling that knowledge. That doesn't make me a scammer. That makes me an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs create value for the market, and in return, they get paid. But the reality is that am I the scammer, or are people at school and university who are teaching you how to make a living in your life, and they have never created wealth themselves, they have never created a product or a service, they've never made good investments. These people are teaching you. Who's the real scammer here? People like me, or people who don't actually have real life financial results but are teaching you how to plan your financial future? Think about that carefully. Society labels people like me as a scammer, but I find it incredibly unfair. Somebody who actually has real life results and has understood how to make wealth through investments in the modern day economy Somebody like me who actually has results, over 2 decades of results, is a scammer. But the person who just has a degree and only academic achievements, classroom achievements, is the real deal. And this is the problem. Who are we learning from? Okay, you go to school and university to learn academics. You don't learn success skills, productivity skills, performance skills, financial skills, commercial skills, entrepreneurial skills, communication skills. You're not going to learn that at school. I'm not saying school is not important. I'm just saying school is very limited in what it teaches you. And so this cartoon, I love this cartoon because, this lady says to this person, oh, you've done well in school, but what real world skills do you have? And this person says, tests, I can take tests. And this is exactly what's happening. The students that I meet from schools and universities and even corporate workers, they're very good at memorization, they're very good at analysis. But when it comes to independent thinking, when it comes to creating innovation, disruption, risk management, decision making, they fail miserably. The school system is teaching them survival. It's not teaching them financial success. So why is it that so many people do not become financially successful? Well, the first thing is the education system only teaches you how to make money by giving up your time. Now, the good thing is that in business and investing, you don't have to give up time to make money. This is the thing. You make money. Your money makes money. People make money. Systems make money. But they don't teach you that. They only teach you how to make money by giving up your time. And you only have limited time. You have 24 hours in a day. And if you live to your life expectancy, you have 4,000 weeks. That's all you have. So what are you going to do? You're going to keep working to make money, but then you don't even have time to enjoy that money. You have no time to grow that money. And most people will not even end up making enough money to last them a lifetime. Then on top of that, people don't have the skill set for wealth. Remember, the skills required to make money are very different from the skills required to grow money. Making money doesn't make you wealthy. Growing money makes you wealthy. And that's a completely different skill set. And so many professionals think that just because I know how to make money, I'm going to become wealthy. You don't. In fact, income has very little correlation with wealth. And people do not, as I said, people do not understand the difference between making money and growing money. Even top professionals fail with money. They don't have the wealth mindset. They don't understand that the mindset of an investor is very different from the mindset of a professional. They don't have the wealth skill set. They have the academic and professional skill set, not the wealth skill set. And they don't have the formulas and principles for wealth. The reality is you can have all the degrees and PhDs and you can still fail. I mean, this is an example of a hedge fund which was run by PhDs and professors and Nobel Prize winners and MBAs, and they failed financially. The reason is that if a finance degree made you wealthy, then all finance professors would be rich. In fact, majority of people who are rich don't have finance degrees because the corporate finance that they teach you in university is to become an employee at a corporation and manage their commercial finance. They don't actually teach you how to become rich. So intellectual capability will not make you a successful investor. And this research has been compiled again and again and again. In fact, the worst investors in the world are young men who have degrees. Because they think that because they have a degree and they have, maybe MBA or finance, that they're intelligent, and they're not when it comes to money and wealth. So this is another thing that most people don't understand, that having a finance degree is not going to make you successful. Then we have some other complicated issues in India. For example, the Indian culture labels success and wealth as greed. America produces 40% of the world's millionaires. America has 1/5 the population of India. And I'm not saying that America is better, and that's not my point. My point is, how does a country which has 1/5 the population of India, how come that one country alone can produce 40% of the world's millionaires? Part of the reason, there are many reasons, but one of the reasons is culturally, Americans value success and wealth. Indians are a little bit confused about it. Some kind of want it, but they're not 100% sure. And so this unfortunately produces this type of thinking which is not convicted, and people end up taking shortcuts, or a lot of the times they end up saying things like, I don't want wealth, I'm happy the way I am. And this is just basically rationalizing lies to yourself so you don't have to feel bad about your lack of financial achievement. The other problem is, as I said, education system doesn't teach us how to grow money, and then there is lack of education and awareness. People don't even know that there is such a thing as wealth education, and they are so scared of, making decisions. They just want to be like everybody else. They just want to get a job, climb the corporate ladder, and then retire on a pension. They don't have any appetite, no vision for their future. And even the ones that have vision, they try and do it through corruption, by cheating people, by lying, by coming up with, just low quality products and solutions, rather than creating wealth the ethical way, the right way. And the fourth problem, which is probably one of the biggest issues, is they don't set a plan. People don't actually have a plan. They have a hope, they have a desire, they have a fantasy, they have a wish, no plan. And even sometimes when they set a plan, they don't follow it. And that's the discipline that people need. They need to follow a plan for 10 years, and people don't do that. So if you don't do something, if you don't follow on that plan, then also you have a very small chance of becoming rich. You are literally leaving everything to luck rather than skills. And then, a lot of people take advice from the wrong people. There are people that you should not take advice from. There are some people who pretend to be wealthy. So some people will talk about how much money they have, but they can't really provide any verifiable proof of their financial accomplishments. Some people, succumb to the latest fads and tactics instead of being consistent with time-tested principles like NFT, crypto, this or that. Oh, this thing is doing well. Somebody made a lot of money here. This is not how you become rich. Over-concentration of lifestyle. So, having a beautiful big home, having a Mercedes, BMW, all that's fine. But do you actually have more money in investments? If you don't, then you just look rich. You're not actually becoming rich. And in time, what will happen is when you need your investments to fund your lifestyle and you don't have enough investments, you're going to have to sell all your lifestyle assets. Sometimes people will give outrageous claims, something has gone up by 300%, 400%, 500%. But they can't actually explain how that happened. There is no description. Some people are always trying to enlist you in their schemes, and they don't educate you on how to become wealthy. So many people blindly will become so impressed with somebody who looks rich without actually asking what skills they have. And then some people, they will seek social validation by buying expensive things, but they don't have investments. Now, there is nothing wrong in having lifestyle and buying investment things as long as you're also contributing to investments. So how I do it is when I make money, I obviously need to live. So my first part of my money goes into living expenses, all the bills that you have to pay, electricity, gas, phone bill, food, all of that sort of stuff. The next part of the money that I make goes towards investments. And only when there is money left after living expenses and investments, only then whatever's left I spend on lifestyle. Most people do the opposite. They take the money for living expenses, then they spend it on lifestyle, whatever's left, and then there's nothing left for investing. And that's because they're trying to look rich rather than become rich. And some people think, some people are lucky, but studies show that all the millionaires in the world, when you look at them, 88% of them are actually self-made, which means it's because of skill, not lotteries, not because somebody helped them, not because they got inheritance. Self-made millionaires usually have very ambitious financial goals, and they're action takers. Secondly, they have mentors. When was the last time you had a mentor? I've had a lot of mentors. I mean, I'm only here because even though I came from a typical middle-class family in India, the only reason I became a multimillionaire is because I had mentors. I had proper mentors and advisors who had real-life results and accomplishments. And I paid them, and I put my time and I put my effort in to learn from them. I didn't just go on YouTube and just read one or two books and try to become rich like a lot of people do. I wanted to learn the proper method. Also, self-made millionaires are not afraid of temporary setbacks and failures, and they understand the value of time. That's why they don't just chase salaries. They understand that giving up your life for a salary, they're giving up the most important thing, which is their time. They can never get their time back. You don't want to be spent, you can work 10, 20, 30 years, maybe 25 years, maybe for a salary, but do you really want to be working for the rest of your life for a salary and not have any time to spend on your health, your family, and exploring and learning about the world and culture and art and dining? And so many people miss out on all the experiences because they're so busy just surviving. So this study was done by Sanjeev Mirchandani, who is the president of Fidelity Investments, one of the largest fund managers. Now, some people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. When I'm in India and I run my events, people say, oh, I know how to make wealth, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But the reality is when you look at most of them, they don't know how to create wealth. They've just read the book. They have intellectual knowledge, but they don't know how to apply that knowledge. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book. Robert Kiyosaki is a real estate investor, and so much of what he teaches is only relevant to the American context, and it doesn't work in India. And so many people don't understand that. And so the reality is, if that book is not going to make you rich, that book is just going to give you absolute basics. So here are some of the principles that result in financial success. There are only two ways to create wealth, and you must choose one or both. Way number one is money working for you, which is called investing. And the second way is systems and people working for you, which is called business. Now, most people don't have money working for them. They don't even have a plan to have money work for them. And they don't have people and systems working for them. And they don't have a plan to have people and systems work for them. They're working for money. That's all they have. That's their only plan. For majority of people in the middle class, they've got one plan. And that plan is, how can I work for money? And this way you can never become wealthy. You must have a plan to either have money working for you or have people and systems working for you. Or if you're really smart, you'll have both working for you. But if your plan is just to work for money, you can never become wealthy. So you have to have a way that you can have your money work for you. Also have to understand planning is really important when it comes to money and wealth. Even if you make money, you're never going to keep it and you're never going to grow it without a plan. So you need a plan. There has to be a plan. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Anyone that tries to make money without a plan is somebody who's being lazy intellectually and will lose in the medium to long term. You see, it's not about winning in the short term. It's about winning in the long term. You have to treat wealth creation like a marathon, not a sprint. It is a marathon. It's a long game. So you have to have a plan when you're playing the long game. Okay? And the third is, wealth is not just to be created, you have to also protect it and preserve it, because you want to make sure that it lasts and it goes to the children if you have children, or you can give it to a favorite charity if you don't have children. But the money lasts. You don't run out of money. So this is where it's important. And you don't lose the money because somebody takes you to court. You don't lose the money because somebody cheats you. You don't lose the money because you went and put all your money in a bad investment. This is really important. Question is, psychologically, can you even detect financial opportunities? Did you, when I went through the Indian Sensex, how many of you even knew that you could make so much money in the Indian Sensex? And why were you not able to create the wealth that the stock market created? So if your mind is not developed to detect financial opportunities, you can have financial opportunities all around you and you still don't see them. And I'll make this example. Think about a time when you decided to buy a car. You would have found that from the time you became serious about buying a particular car and a particular model in that car, you would have seen that car everywhere on the road. The car was always there, but you didn't see it before you made the decision until that decision to buy a car became meaningful and relevant for you. Then you started seeing the car everywhere. That's exactly what happens with money and wealth. When you make a serious decision, and when your mind is properly trained, you see wealth opportunities, investment opportunities everywhere. When your mind is not trained, you can't see these opportunities. And many years ago, my mentors taught me, when the mind is blind, the eyes cannot see. So is your mind blind when it comes to money and wealth opportunities? If it is, your eyes will not see the opportunities around you. So a lot of people also, don't have the right beliefs. And I'll show you some of the limiting beliefs around money and wealth. And they don't value wealth. They want wealth because they're desperate. But you don't get wealth because you're desperate. You have to value wealth. You have to actually create psychological value on wealth creation. And not because of status and prestige. It's what it represents: security, freedom, independence, contribution. You have to see the real value of wealth. The value of wealth for me has been the ability to live the life and lifestyle that I want, to be able to do the work that is important to me, to write books, to travel the world, to speak on stages. I have been able to take more risks because I have wealth. When you don't have wealth, you can't take risks. You can't experiment to see the world, to be able to make contribution, give money to charities, and not just small money, but decent amount of money, to be able to spend more times in places of worship because you don't have to constantly worry about your bills. That is the true value of wealth, which most people never get to experience. And then you have the self-image required to create wealth. Self-image means how we see ourselves. If you see yourself as just a basic, simple, humble kind of person, which is what most people say, you're not going to become rich. If you see yourself as an entrepreneur, a capitalist, a leader, a wealth creator, an investor, then what you're doing is you have the type of identity that attracts wealth. Most people think that these labels are bad. They think that the best label is I'm a humble and simple person. And basically what they're saying is I'm lazy, I'm intellectually lazy, I don't like to think, but I want to glorify myself for being intellectually lazy. Come on. Really? I mean, why don't you, if you're so good as a person, why don't you make a lot of wealth and give it to a charity? Let's see. Are you really that good a person? But most people don't think like that. They just think, oh, I'm a good person because I don't have wealth. Well, it's very different. If you don't have wealth because of lack of skill, it's not the same as giving your money away. People think that they're as good as a person who's giving their money away by not having money. No. If you're such a good person, why don't you create wealth? And let's prove it. Why don't you prove it that you don't care about it by giving it away? There are lots of people that need money. So if you don't want it, you don't like it, you want a simple life, why don't you create wealth and give it away? Something to think about, right? But the problem is if you have the wrong self-image, if you see yourself as unimportant, not worthy, if you've got a mindset of scarcity, you just are not going to create wealth. And here are some of the beliefs that stop people from creating wealth. I'm too old. I'm not smart enough to create wealth. I'm not educated enough to create wealth. I'm afraid of trying and failing. You have to have a lot of money to create wealth, which is not true. I've already tried. Have you? Are you sure? Have you tried everything? It's selfish of me to want more. Is it? I don't really feel that I deserve it. I don't have the willpower to create wealth. You can't trust anyone. Really? Are you sure you can't trust anyone? I'm too busy. Are you really too busy to create wealth? What are you so busy doing? Working for what? Just running on the same place on the treadmill? It's hard to make money, is it? Or is it that you don't have the skills? So the beliefs that we have hold us back from even trying. I want you to spend a minute just thinking about what beliefs do you have that are stopping you from trying. I'm not good enough. I'm not a money-minded person. You don't have to be money-minded. You need to be financially responsible to create wealth. And some people confuse their degrees for education. Elon Musk said, the young and ambitious, skills matter more than degrees. A degree is not necessarily a skill. And at the end of the day, the problem is that we live in an economic world. Everything costs money. Even time with your children will end up costing you money because money has to come from somewhere. So you're not working to pay the bills. Health costs money. Even going to a spiritual retreat, doing a course with, Sri Ravi Shankar, or, doing a course with Osho, and well, not Osho, but, any spiritual guru that's there. I thought about Osho, but I was actually thinking about Sadhguru. But to do a course with any of these guys will cost you time and money. You can't do it if you're broke and you have to constantly have financial stress. So healthcare, being able to help your parents, being able to help your brother, sister, anyone with their education, anything that you care about, unfortunately requires money. So my question to you is, do you have a plan to achieve financial freedom and not be reliant on a job your whole life? Yes, you need a job for some time, but you should never put yourself in a position where you need a job until the day you die. And some people think they're smart, they can time the market. Well, this has been said. Most people cannot time the financial market, and you don't need to. You don't need to watch financial media. You don't need to read the financial newspapers. In fact, I hardly ever look at financial news. Political news, financial news, most of the time I ignore it. It has nothing to do with me. And some people watch it because they think they can make money in the market. Well, as they say, there are When it comes to timing the market and trying to make money because of the ups and downs of the markets, there are idiots and there are liars. And only a very small percentage of very high skilled people can make money by timing the market. I don't have that skill, but the reality is you don't need that skill to become rich. You don't need the ability to know when to buy and sell to become rich in the market. And this was a big, big thing because so many people, especially women, think, oh, I don't really want to, look at the newspapers every day. And, a lot of people think, oh, I'm not a numbers person. You don't need to be. You don't need to be. That's the beauty. You can actually create wealth without watching the markets. And then some people mess up their investment portfolios. Even when they build an investment portfolio, they mess it up. How? They listen to the media too much. They get emotionally carried away. Either they act out of fear or, markets crashing, I better get out. Or they become greedy because everybody else is becoming rich. They're hearing it on Facebook. So they allow emotions to dictate their decision. Sometimes they have short-term focus. Oh, right now, Trump tariffs are happening. Or, the plane crashed. So they become fixated on short-term issues and they forget about, that this is a long-term thing. They're training for a marathon. They become obsessed with single issues. Inflation is happening, the market is down, and they don't look at the long-term plan. It doesn't really matter. They're illiquid. They have too much money in gold, or they have too much money locked up in their house, or they have too much wealth tied to real estate or land. So there is no liquidity. And if there's no liquidity, there is no ability to be able to take advantage of opportunities. They time the market. They think that they need to time the market to become wealthy. They don't realize that if you time the market over and over again, most of the times you will get it wrong. And then also, even if you get it right, sometimes you're constantly paying taxes for buying and selling, and you're paying brokerage. They're under-diversified. They have too much money in one thing. They don't understand how to diversify. And they're constantly fixated with performance, short-term performance. It doesn't matter. Short-term performance is irrelevant. You can have an investment that doesn't perform every year, but it can still be a very good investment. Similar to a cricketer. You can have a cricketer that's very, very good, but gets out at zero. That doesn't mean they're a bad cricketer. Even good cricketers can have bad innings. Even good investments can have bad years. Doesn't mean that you should quit that investment. As I said, our principle is boring money, exciting life, and not the other way around. If you're having fun, if you're becoming adventurous, and you're gambling with your money. I don't gamble. I invest the right way, the prudent way. And I invest for good returns because look at this. When we looked at early this year, we looked at Indian inflation was 7.79%. Okay. And inflation will always happen every 5-10 years. You will see inflation. So that means your money, not only your income after tax, but even your investments after tax need to produce a return of 7.79% minimum for you not to go backwards. Okay, that if you're not getting at least that much return, you are actually becoming poorer because the cost of living continues to go up. Okay, and so many people think, oh, I'm going to go and speculate. If you're speculating, you're gambling. That is not investing. If you're making predictions, if you're listening to people who are promising you things and they don't have wealth and you are doing the wrong thing and you will eventually pay for it. And most people don't understand it's not the returns that make you rich. It's not your income that makes you rich. It's net worth that makes you rich. It's the only measure of financial wealth. It's your net worth. It's the only measure. So if you really look at it, the only measure of financial wealth is your net worth. And most people don't even know how to calculate the net worth. Now, when it comes to property, people make a lot of mistakes, which even when they invest in property, they end up losing money. So we have a sequence that we created for people, and it's very simple. It's called SISPIP. And SISPIP basically means skills. That's number one. S, high income skills. Second, income. Your income should be enough to pay for your living expenses, lifestyle expenses, and to be able to invest. If your income is not enough, if you can only survive on your income, you have a skills problem. So you need to go and fix the first S. So once you've solved the skills problem and you solve the income problem, then you have to save money. You need to save enough money to have an emergency fund. And how much should you have? That depends. Anywhere from 6 to 12 months of your expenses should be in an emergency fund. After you've got an emergency fund and you save money, you should protect your money. And this is where structures come in, trusts come in, insurances come in. And then once you protect it, now you're ready to invest. So the I stands for investing. And once you've invested, you need to preserve your wealth so you can't lose it. This is the entire sequence. Most people do not follow this sequence. They go straight into the I, and even that is speculation. They don't even invest properly. And that's why most people don't have wealth. Now, when it comes to creating wealth, there are 3 types of skills you need. And we can show you how to develop these skills. Number 1, high income skills. Number 2, investing skills. Number 3, risk management skills. If you have these 3 skills, nobody can stop you from becoming wealthy. Okay, you need these 3 skills. And most people don't have these 3 skills. They have average income skills. But you need all 3 to become rich. And we're not just saying run after money. No. In fact, I hate running after money. I like to attract it, and I like to enjoy it, and I like to grow it. The reality is that money is the most versatile form of wealth. You cannot pay your gas bills because you're spiritual. You cannot pay your electricity bills and dental bills because your children are good children. It doesn't work like that. Money allows you to be able to buy the best healthcare, to buy the best mentors, to buy the best education, to have the best experiences. And so therefore, when you have money, so many of these things can be achieved. And we're not saying that you should only have money. We're saying that money just allows you to live better and experience the best of what life has to offer. Problem is, people have too much fear. They fear the death, the disease, rejection, embarrassment, failure, criticism. But the biggest fear that people have is the fear of poverty. The problem is the fear of poverty stops people from taking action. They don't go and get a mentor. They don't learn investing. They don't invest money. They don't start a business because of fear. And the problem is that fear of becoming poor actually keeps them poor. This is the funny paradox, that the more fear you have about taking action, the poorer you remain. And the problem that we also have is that the middle class is so insecure because they become such cowards, they don't take any action. And I know this because I used to be like that. At one point, even I was scared. And then you just do what everybody else is doing. You follow the masses, but the problem is the masses are not becoming successful, and they're never going to become successful because they're not thinking, they're not doing anything different. If you want to become successful, you have to do something different from what the majority are doing. The majority have no plan. Their plan is school, degree, and job. This is not a plan. This is a chosen pathway for them already, which they're not even thinking about. And the majority of them, 99% of them, are not going to get wealthy because of that plan. I want you to take just about 30 seconds and I want you to write down, what is the impact of you not having financial skills? Think about that. Not having the lifestyle you want, not having the time freedom, perhaps not being able to contribute, not being able to see the world, not being able to pursue your hobbies, not having enough time for health and well-being. Think about it. Maybe you wanted to support a social cause or a charity. What's the impact for you of not having financial skills? Some people actually have low confidence because they don't have financial skills. Some people are afraid to talk about money. Some people are even afraid to go into a nice hotel or a restaurant because they're scared of being judged. Think about the impact of not having financial skills. So my question is, if I said to you, are you ready to become a millionaire? Would you think that what is this? Is this possible? Does your mind start saying, oh, it's not even possible? That this is too good to be true? The reality is, with the right education, you can become wealthy. And the millionaire basically means $1 million or 7 crores in assets. What if I could show you how to do that without speculating, without gambling, without doing anything crazy, fancy? What if I could show you how to do that? Also, the most important question is not just about becoming a millionaire, but how many of you want to take care of your parents financially? What would that mean to you? What would it mean to you that you're not having to stress about money, and you can? So there is a pathway to becoming the first millionaire in your family. If you're like me, who've come from a traditional, Indian middle class background, and you want to be the first person in your family that's financially secure. You want to prove to people that, I'm financially responsible. I'm financially skilled. There is a pathway. And what will happen if you take the wrong advice? Somebody who's just has no wealth, or somebody who's just created wealth for the short term, or somebody who's just selling you something without actually proving their skills. What is the impact of following their advice? Going on YouTube and learning from somebody who doesn't really have a full background, doesn't have long-term track record. Are you taking a lot of risk because you're hoping that you can learn this for free? So don't take wealth advice from anybody who has not been able to create wealth and grow it over 15 years. So what I designed, based on my 22 years of knowledge and experience, not just knowledge, but experience and results, I created the Future Millionaires Academy. We have hundreds of people in India who are students who are going through this program, but it's not for everybody. If you are completely addicted to gambling, you want to make quick and easy money, this program is not for you. If you don't care about financial security because you have been conditioned to believe that wealth is not important, you don't need to come into this program. If you want to just speculate, and then it's not for you. If you make excuses, there's always a reason for you not to take action. This program is not for you. If you have a scarcity mindset, you cannot invest in your education. You only will educate yourself on things that other people are doing. If you have a scarcity mindset, you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in educating yourself and working on your mindset and skill set, this is not for you. And if you only want to run after degrees, this is not for you. This is for people who are serious about becoming wealthy for their families. You're serious and you're committed and you know it. You are confused about all these things that people are saying on Instagram and YouTube. There are so many things, and all these different books are saying different things. You just want a simple, reliable, systematic method of creating wealth, and you want to learn it properly. If you're financially motivated and you understand now that the wealth is really important for security, independence, and dignity, and you do not want to take tips from fake influencers or broke friends, then this is for you. Our program is incredibly comprehensive. It first starts in you mastering the fundamentals, how to calculate your financial net worth, and it shows you how to do that. It's got an inbuilt calculator, how to build an investment portfolio, the skills that are required to create long-term wealth, skills that are required to generate a higher income. How do you not mess up your investment portfolio? How do you continue to make smart investment decisions? If you're looking at mutual funds, which for some of you will be great, what kind of mutual funds you should completely avoid? And here is a hint, you should avoid 80% of them. How to develop a wealth mindset and financial confidence. How to understand and mitigate the risks that destroy people's wealth. The 4 types of risks that all investors face and how to choose between them. How to avoid the mistakes that are made by most people, which keep them financially broke. Type of assets that create wealth and which assets only create the illusion of wealth. I can tell you there are a lot of people living in fancy flats and driving nice cars. Don't be fooled. If the bank owns everything, they're not becoming wealthy. Main formulas and principles that contribute to sustainable wealth. Things you need to know to become a successful investor in the stock market. Timeless money laws. Now, here is my guarantee to you. Within 6 months of completing this program, you are going to know more about the most proven methods of wealth creation than 95% of people around the world. And you can check it. Once you've got the knowledge, just go and speak to anybody in your family, extended family, friends, colleagues, and you'll see that most of them have no understanding of how to create wealth. Okay? So after the proper completion of this program, you will have absolute clarity of what it takes to create financial wealth. 100% clarity, and you don't need to be good with numbers, and you don't need to be good technically. I've explained everything in a very simple way, and it's 100% guarantee. Some examples are some of our mentees have done incredibly well, from having incredible salary hikes to having incredible returns to making good investment decisions, also improving in their career, increasing their business revenue, and increasing their net worth. All of this has been possible by people. And some people, they're already quite accomplished in their career, but the reality is that they've been able to increase the value of their skills and their investments, whether it's building skills, high income skills, and even if they're applying them in business or their career, we have people after people after people who've got outcomes. The program is very comprehensive. It has all the video tutorials. It has workbooks. It has all the wealth calculators, making it super simple for you. You don't need to, you literally just, it'll ask you for some prompts. You put in the numbers. It's got a lot of tools to work on your psychology, a lot of templates, checklists, everything that you need. The whole idea is that in this program, you're going to build your money mindset, financial confidence, and wealth capability. There are some exclusive bonuses. You're also going to get extra sessions on how to buy an existing business to boost your wealth without putting any capital, proven strategies to increase your cash flow, how to protect your wealth creation, what to do if you're over the age of 45, what should you be thinking about, how to make high returns on real estate, how to work the returns on property investments, 3 factors that contribute to overall investment returns, 3 types of debt and which ones make you rich and which ones make you poor, and how to identify real estate and properties that will continually be in high demand. Of course, in the first session, which is the most important one, how much should you borrow for a car and a house before it affects your ability to create financial wealth in the future? You will also get a copy of my free book, Timeless Investing, which is powerful and most powerful fundamentals from the most successful investors in the world. So join the Future Millionaires Academy program today. All you have to do is you just have to click the link below and you can speak to one of our consultants about your requirements and how this program works and the investment. Now, I want you to look at this as an investment in your future. Try not to look at it as a cost, because a cost is something where you pay something and you don't get anything back. An investment is when you pay something, but you get a lot more back. And that's exactly what this program is going to do for you. For the amount of money that you pay for this program, your return is going to be 100-folds. And that's how you've got to look at it as an investment. So it's not a cost, it's an investment. But what we'd like you to do at this point, if you can start to see that the knowledge out there is not going to help you, if you're starting to understand that your mindset or your skill set may be holding you back, if you're starting to really understand the value of wealth creation, the best thing you can do right now for you and for your family is to book a call with one of our consultants at RonMalhotra International. And you can do that by clicking on this link, and they will answer your questions. They're not going to push you. They're not going to force you. There is no point. We want you to be motivated more than we are for your financial future. There is no point us selling you a program if you're not motivated, because the reality is you have to do the work. And the work is super simple. We've made it as simple as we can. And it's easy to understand. And we've had, as I said, hundreds of people go through this program, and we've got the testimonials. So in this call, you can speak to a consultant, and you'll be surprised. You'll be pleasantly surprised at how low the investment is. And in comparison to the return that you're going to see on this investment, start thinking like an investor and a capitalist. This is what we do. We look at everything as an investment if it's going to improve our life and our future. And that's how you've got to look at it. Try not to let fear or too much skepticism stop you from making this call. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Our consultants will answer your questions. They will enable you to make an informed decision. Rest is, of course, up to you. I look forward to potentially welcoming you into the Future Millionaires Academy. Thank you for watching.